feeling devilishly high. So I knock on your door. Will you let me come inside?
Yeah,
All
no.
right.
Mine's mostly paper stuff, modules, books.
Yeah.
I have books
Yeah,
from the 1800s and things like that,
But I
I
had
Do you
the
have, do you have modules from the 1800s?
No, I wish I did. Yeah, I do. Yeah, I think Ed wrote one of them.
yeah. Thank you.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, for me
I
it
mean,
was that
Ed,
weird.
yeah.
The because the D&D stuff is printed and is paper, it somehow seems a little less valuable. Like people are going ooh and ah over my realms map, up on Alex's ceiling, and I said,
Right.
those are just the photocopies. The real ones are here. That's just a photocopy taped together that
Yep.
got a lot of wrinkled. What the hell? But then I realized, as you did, how important it is to all these people, and you sort of go, oh, okay, I get it now. It's awesome
And look,
responsibility time.
well, that's what I said. Like, doing Trek is two jobs. It was actually being on set and doing the character, and then it's having done Trek,
Right.
which is a whole other
I can't.
responsibility, stewardship. We are ambassadors for the ethos that was set out by Roddenberry of equality, of tolerance, of compassion, of science, of logic, of problem solving, and so Frakes and I have had many conversations about it. It's like we carry that with us, and people come up to you like, that show helped me get through my parents' divorce. That show helped me get through my chemo. Like that show with Shaw specifically, like I get a lot of messages from veterans who have been through PTSD or have PTSD or survivor's guilt, and how they feel seen by the writing of that role, and how it moved them. And how something that somebody that you originally saw as being this kind of cantankerous, antagonistic character, you suddenly peel back and go, there's a reason for that, and they're hurting.
Right.
And so,
well, it's the same thing with Shaw. The character.
That's what I'm saying.
Clint. He was this gruff with Quint. Well, there was this gruff character through the whole movie, and then you find out in a moment of him peeling back the layers, saying, "This is where it came from. This is why I am who I am."
Well, I mean, he's Ahab.
Yeah, he is. He's like, I'll never put on a life jacket again. And that's where he comes from. And the same thing with Shaw. You were able to do that, and it was such a powerful speech. It was incredible. They had to applaud when you finished that, and they cut. That had to, had to be an applaud moment.
We did like 8 different versions of it, so there was no like.
But still, come on, one of those had to be an applaud.
I have to say they, I've said this before. The speech was so beautifully written. Not one word was changed, and not one word was left out in the final edit. And Frakes gave me all the room to play with it, and then would go, okay, now try it like this. But then he would let me reset to the beginning of it, and then ramp through it again, so that I never had to like come in the middle of it and hot. And so when an actor is given that kind of material and then that kind of trust and directorship, it can make for some wonderful TV, hopefully. And then having to play the scene to Patrick and to Ed, who were just tremendous scene partners, even though they barely said anything. Once the monologue started, looking into Patrick's eyes and delivering this, and looking into Ed's eyes, it just makes for it gives room for that kind of discovery. It was fun.
Right. How was it teaching? I know you're trying to get Frakes behind the DM screen, which you'd like to do. Has he played with you?
Oh, I don't want him to get him behind the DM screen.
Oh,
he
you
just
don't?
happened to sit down at my table.
Oh, okay. I thought
he just sat down at my table and he just did this, and so I snapped a picture of it.
He did this, I think it was. Yeah, but what about?
No. He just was like checking out my table, and he just sat down. I'm not like I have no dog in the fight if Frakes ever plays D&D. I invited him to come play, and he agreed, and then he chickened out. What was the rest of your question?
What about Jerry Ryan? How was that? How did she like that? Because I saw the picture you her reading the book, and
no, that was all like, look, Terry Matalis was creating a narrative. She with his photos. So she obviously, this is not her world, but she was absolutely game to jump in and like, yeah, that sounds like a fun way to spend an evening. And Mika Burton, LeVar's daughter, is an old pro when it comes to D&D.
Really?
Yeah. And then Terry had played before, and Chris Monfett is in my ongoing, and he's one of our writers for Picard, and he wrote on 12 Monkeys. And then Sylvina Knight, she was the hair and makeup head, and she's the makeup head, and she was way into it. Jerry was like, I don't know what this is, but we'll find out. And we had pizza and we had drinks and we had a 5-hour game, and she loved it.
That's great.
I mean, it's like when you're spending 5 hours with friends telling a story, which is what acting is. Yeah, she was having a blast. Now, was she feeling like, oh, I can see how if you really understand the mechanics and you can really understand your character, you can maximize these moments, because she was watching Mika do that.
Right.
And so she was like very like curious and game, and like wanted to be there. I wasn't twisting her arm, but all of the like, oh my God, what is happening photos, those were all just for the camera.
Oh, were they? Okay.
Okay.
I mean, she was hamming it up. But once the game started, she was just like very clear. She's like, I have no idea what this is going to be like, but let's do it. And she did it, and she was a blast to play with.
Nice.
Oh, Captain, my Captain, if I don't give Jeff his opportunity to take this lead in, you're going to kill me. I'm going to reel you into the Forgotten Realms just a little bit, because Jeff is going to have to piggyback off of something that I'm about to do.
Yeah.
Tell me about your game, if you can, about places in the Forgotten Realms that you love. Is there a race class combination that is just a go-to for you? Is there a place or a hub that you would call, this is where I love to play?
Yeah, I would. So like my current, as a DM, I'm currently in Cormyr.
Okay.
I took the city of Arabelle, and there was a power vacuum and a hostile takeover, and it is now called Niamata, after a character named Mata Kryn. She took over the city, and she's renamed it. She sort of banished her sister, who was the reigning the law of the town, and she sort of took over her sister. She's in cahoots with a cult that worships Moloch. So what I was thinking was, I didn't know how to start this campaign, and I was like, you know what? And I was like looking around my nerd lair, and my eyes fell on the very picture behind you. And I said, what if we do that scene? What if the game opens with the removing of the jewels from Moloch?
Wow. Okay.
Wow.
And so I rebuilt it. You can see pictures on my Instagram from a little over a year ago of the mini setup where I did it with the lizard folk and everything. Like we just played that scene. So now when they look at that, that's a moment from their game, and not just an image of the thing.
And that's all based right there in Cormyr?
That's it was in. I took them from Arabelle into the woods off to the side. There's the name's escaping me. Maybe you know better than I. You know what? I'll tell you in a second. Because I have a canvas map.
All right.
Nice.
Yeah. So what era is this?
So this is they were in, just a second. Let me tell. Now I have to know. Because I got to find Lake Dragonmere. Hang on.
Okay, the Dragonmere, yeah.
Oh, Hullock Forest.
The Hullock Forest, yeah.
Yeah.
Hullock Forest. So the era that I'm playing in, and again, because I play 5e,
okay,
but I find, we talked about this, I'm more of a Tolkien guy and less of a Narnia guy. So
Right.
if like when player characters are like, I'm a centaur and when it gets a little Narnia for me, I wanted to push it a little more Tolkien. So I set it 200 years before the current place where it is, and so it just after this I call it the Sword Coast Orc incursion, which is just after this war that occurred. The party had been gathered up, so the place is in a state of reconstruction. Everything is like lawlessness is existing, and having a dragonborn walk down your street is odd.
Sure.
Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
it was before the war is what forced people to come together, where dwarves and elves were fighting together and dragonborn were fighting together. But it's still now in the hubs. That was on the battlefield, but in the city states, it's odder to see such a diverse group of characters. We have a gnome, we have a halfling, we have some humans and elves, and so because their bonds were forged on the battlefield, they are very or some of them. Basically, it was a black bag. They were black bagged. They were prisoners. Monochrane was going to kill them, but then she suicide squatted them. She sent them in to get the eyes of Moloch with a bunch of her soldiers. Then her plan was they would be killed. No one would miss them. But it turns out there were some sympathizers for them in the group of soldiers that killed all the soldiers that were going to kill them, and then everybody went on the lam. So now they're on the lam, and then they went down the river after Hullock into Dragonmere. We had about 4 sessions in Suzail.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And now they're in the King's Forest in Weymouth.
Nice.
Which is where I stuck the Tomb of Horrors. I worked in a very modified version, obviously, because they're only level 4, but I wanted them to taste the Tomb of Horrors. Mm-hmm. So they're seeking out an ex-Red Wizard of Thay who has bunkered herself in the Tomb of Horrors, and so they had to go through it to get to her. Wow. That was a long-winded answer to your very simple question.
No, like blood.
That's exactly what we wanted.
Yeah, that's cool.
No, that's perfect. Oh my!
I'm loving it, and I'm Cormyr is my special love, and I'm working on Phil Ferrell's Queen Phil Ferrell's lore right now for the Patreon. So I'm
somewhere in the distance. Brian Cortillo's head is exploding.
Exploding. Yeah,
I know.
I'm trying to get the pronunciation. Is it Missin Paradocles? Missin Paradocles, the red dragon named Mist.
That's close enough.
Missin Paradocles, Mistin Paradocles.
Yep.
So she's hiding out in the Stormhorns,
right?
And so there was this crossroads when they were leaving Suzail. They could either go into the King's Forest, they could go to the Ravens. I have it written down.
Or they could go Raven, yeah.
Citadel of Ravens, where one of the purple dragons has taken a garrison up to the Citadel of Ravens. Mm-hmm. And so there was like 3 different paths that they could go. I have to limit their choices to 3 or else I can't DM. So I'm like, you get to pick one of these 3 so I know what I'm doing for my next session. You will have agency. I will follow you. But you're either going to go face a dragon, you're either going to go off to see the wizard, or you're going to go try to find this knight to try and help with the cause. And they picked the forest because they have a curse on them because of the eyes of Moloch, and they're trying to break the curse.
That's why I had to create this world and keep going, because my player characters would say, "Let's go over there. Let's go over there." ah, damn it, they're always going to go where you didn't want them to. So you just have to create the whole world.
So I had an artist do a Rankin and Bass version of my player characters.
Wow.
Oh,
nice.
I like it.
I love it. Yeah, this is cool.
Look at that. That is terrific.
And then I found out she's on Instagram, known as Mel the Honeybee. If you want to check out this artist.
Yep.
Mel the
But
Honeybee.
yeah, it's look, I grew up on Greyhawk, and my ongoing that I'm a player in. When you were asking what my favorite race and class is, I'm a half elf sorcerer ranger, and so I'm basically Aragorn. Let's be honest.
You're Aragorn.
Yeah.
He's got elf blood in him down the road.
Yeah.
So I created a sorcerer ranger, but that's set in Greyhawk, and so a lot of my Forgotten Realms tends to hew towards that more starker grit of what I can find in Forgotten Realms, which is why I put it in Cormyr, which is why I love Cormyr. I love it. And then I also created a town on the Tethir Peninsula named after my daughter and one of her best friends. It's a seaside halfling village, kind of like Sweet Haven from Popeye. It's a seaside halfling village, and my daughter's name is Tilly, and her best friend's name is Kamori, and so I named the town Tillakamori because it sounds like an Irish village.
It does. It
It
does.
does,
Oh
yeah.
my god.
And so I've set a lot of adventures in Tillakamori, and it's kind of it's not quite Moran. Moran is like the whaling village, and so this is a very forgotten about village because it's a halfling village, and so it's great for trafficking magic items from the Sea of Swords through. So a lot of stuff happens in Tillakamori.
It does sound Irish. And speaking of Irish,
Oh boy.
Here it goes.
Here we go. So, my original question was going to be, in your campaign, what do your dwarves sound like, and why are they Scottish?
You're not wrong.
Thank you.
I have a dwarf. I have a Duergar dwarf. Well, it's all. And why are they Scottish? It's because of Gimli.
There you go.
Like that's why. That's why dwarves sound Scottish. When technically they should sound like Danish. You would think, right? Like you would think like dwarves would sound Nordic.
Right. Yeah.
And Scandinavian. Like
Sure.
that's where it feels like it technically would live. But John Rhys Davies made him Scottish, and so all dwarves are Scottish.
It only counts as one.
It only counts as one, lad. That's right. That's my biggest thing with him is this. I always do a Scottish accent when I'm talking about me dwarves, and they're like, it's not Scottish."
Well, I remember once I was doing my Duergar character as an NPC, and his name's Bim Belcaster, because they used to make bells.
Right.
So he's from a family of bellcasters.
Got it.
So he's
Okay.
Bim Belcaster, and he's now a paladin because he had a very horrible, very dark, abusive, Duergar. So he comes from Duergar stock, but he is now a paladin. And I remember doing his voice, and then the woman next to me at my table looks at me. She goes, "You're doing like 3 different accents." I go, "Have you ever heard Duergar? It's perfect."
Nice. Yeah.
That's right. You don't know what Duergar sound like.
Because they don't actually speak Scottish; they speak Duergar.
That's
They
right.
speak Faerûd.
Yeah.
But since
We
I
got
can't,
here first. Yeah.
But since I can't do Scandinavian accents or Nordic accents, I do Scottish. When I
You
need
can't
to
do
me
Scottish
dwarf.
either.
I can't do Scottish either, but I know. But I try, lad. I
dear.
try.
I certainly tried, though. Yeah.
That's right. That's right.
Oh, dear.
And show me me your demons, maybe I will show you mine. Close your eyes. Trick or treat. I'm the devil in disguise. Ooh, the devil in disguise. Another lost soul. If you find me, what's the price? A heart that's so cold from all the wickedness in life. Close your eyes. Trick or treat. Prayers can't save you now. The deal has been done. Watch it all turn to dust. With the
La 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 la. La 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 la.